Hello, comrades. Welcome to the fifth day of watching Israel get mauled by Palestine. And I guess we can just lead off with this prick. I've never liked this prick. I've never listened to this prick because, as you all already know, I do not listen to settlers unless they have something really smart to say. Destiny, of course, does not have smart things to say. So he's replying to this tweet, which says that conflating supporters of Palestine with supporters of Hamas is pretty sneaky. Just remember, as horrible as the Palestinian Hamas supporters are in the West, believe me, they are fucking horrible. It should be bullied just as hard as we bullied Nazis. I'm not sure how you get rid of Nazism by bullying them. You get rid of Nazism with tanks and with submachine guns. Anyways, don't let that make you turn a very blind eye to the very real hardship that Israel is forcing on the Palestinian people. So, both sides of them. There's been a lot of that over the past 5 days. And the other 8 organizations, this is Comrade Hayat, I love her very much, and you should follow her. And the other 8 organizations and the millions of youth who's been on ground fighting since birth, are you going to take their right to call this uprising theirs too? So we keep seeing this Western narrative. We have to support the good rebels. Where are our anarchist friends on the ground in Palestine? Keep this in mind. There are anarchists undoubtedly taking part in this, okay? Everybody, all of Palestine has broken out of prison. All of Palestine. But we cannot pick and choose and make up our own narrative to better salve our consciousness in the West, okay? Maoists are not leading this. Anarchists are not leading this. Whatever weird little Western toy ideology that we personally support, they're probably not in Palestine. There's millions, tens of millions of Palestinian people, both in their ancestral land and in diaspora. They have a variety of views. Okay? So when they rise up, it's not time for us to pick and choose and try to cherry pick who we support. People do that with the whole black liberation struggle in the United States. Where are my people? Who can I amplify? No. Amplify the whole fucking uprising because this impacts all Palestinians. As Comrade Hayat says, the Palestinian people broke out of the world's largest open air prison and are finally taking back what is rightfully theirs. Anyone who calls themselves a leftist must stand unequivocally with the Palestinian struggle of liberation and return. That is the line. So, how are people breaking the line? Here's Comrade Rayner at Anthroptimism, who I also love very much, and you should follow them. Boy, there sure are a lot of cowards flinching and traitors sneering today. Those are actually lyrics from an old socialist song, The People's Flag. Let cowards flinch and traitors sneer. We will keep the red flag flying here. We have lived our entire lives in a warped and cruel world, crushed in a sea of violence so ubiquitous we have learned to be accustomed to it. Will we cling to the old world, shoring ourselves up in relative comfort, or will we carry on revolution and free ourselves of this madness? So what the fuck am I talking about? Like, there's been a lot of fake news. And I hate that term, but this is literal fake news going around about both black and Palestinian solidarity work and what exactly is going on the ground, okay? My boy, Chairman Mao, said that if you have not done any investigation, you have no right to speak. Okay? Like, that's literally one of our most famous quotes. No investigation, no right to speak. So there's a lot of people speaking without investigating. Why? Because it's in their interest to do so. And I talked about this the other night. You have all sorts of people saying that, oh, we should condemn rape, we should condemn beheadings. Like, that's how the narrative is shifting. First, it was mass rapes of people at that stupid music festival in the desert, literally 3 miles from the world's biggest open air concentration camp. Now, they've shifted that narrative because it was proved wrong. Now they're talking about mass beheadings. And I'm like, where the fuck is this shit coming from? Is there any evidence whatsoever of any of this? And of course, there's not. Like, I have not seen a single, like, unequivocal example of any of this happening. What I have seen is people being attacked for standing in solidarity with the Palestinian people, using this stuff as a sort of fake canard to shit on the Palestinian resistance. Enough. It turns out she wasn't paraded naked, but was taken to a hospital. If you've been following this, you've probably seen this lady, Shani Luke, who was supposedly raped and tortured to death. She's alive. And Hamas was not taking her to do horrible things to her. They were taking her to a hospital. Hey there, Mr. Redguard. Hope your night is going well. Thank you. You all are so polite. It turns out she wasn't paraded naked, but she was taken to a hospital. Turns out there were no rapes or beheaded babies. Israel and its mainstream media accomplices are making up so many outrageous lies to distract from their carnage in Gaza. There have been 900 Gazans killed, including 260 kids and 230 women. Where are their tears? On the rape allegations, this is from Muhammad Shahada. On the rape allegation, LA Times retracts and concludes such reports have not been substantiated. An earlier version of this column, this was yesterday at 6:12 p.m. An earlier version of this column mentioned rape in the attacks, but such reports have not been substantiated. So why have you published them? This is shitty journalism. Matter of fact, this is not journalism at all. I'd say it's shitty journalism, but this is not journalism. This is literal fake news serving a political agenda. You have the Israeli Minister of Defense literally declaring how exactly he's going to have his boys and girls commit war crimes, most foul, like violating every instance of the Geneva Convention, and there's crickets. But Hamas threatens to execute hostages, and this is like, okay, we're going to kill one every day. This isn't ISIS bullshit. They're literally saying that, hey, if you, without warning, kill any more of our kids or women, we will execute one of your citizens. That is what they're saying. Tit for tat. They're not, like, people keep trying to portray these people as bloodthirsty savages. Why? Because they're racist against brown people. That's the only reason why. And there's been, I'm not going to call it a civil war, but like there's been a sort of beef between various comrades of mine in Democratic Socialists of America over this. And New York City DSA attended a big rally in Times Square. I showed video of it yesterday. Not yesterday. No, technically yesterday. But I showed video of it, and like people are just mauling over Eugene Puryear, saying that they took out several hundred hipsters. Okay, whoop-de-fucking-do. So they released this statement today. New York City DSA believes in peace, equality, and freedom for all Palestinians and Israelis. First of all, Israel is not a state that has the right to exist, okay? We need to stop referring to this state of butchers and fascists as an actual state. That's the main way you can detect a liberal Zionist. Like they're just talking about Israel as if it's any other state. No, this is an ongoing settler colonial project. Like, would we refer to the apartheid so-called Republic of South Africa as a state that is going to continue to exist? No. From the river to the sea means just that. It is Israel, not Palestine. We deeply mourn the loss of life in the region and unequivocally condemn all hatred and the killing of all civilians. Our sympathy and condolences go out to those who have lost loved ones or who have loved ones in harm's way. Both sidesism. On Saturday, in anticipation of escalatory violence to come, we treated a promotion of a rally in solidarity with the people of Palestine. We understand why many, including our allies, were shocked by the timing and tone of this message in a moment of profound fear and grief. What allies? What allies? Well, what about, at both sides, a people who are currently under attack, yet who have valiantly broken out of prison and are continuing to this very hour, to this very nanosecond, to fight? Like, what ally? Allies of who? Allies of what? You don't need allies like that. You should not seek or try to keep allies like that. We are sorry for the confusion our post caused and for not making our values explicit. We are also concerned that some have chosen to focus on a rally while ignoring the root causes of violence in the region, the far-right Netanyahu government's escalating human rights violations, and explicitly genocidal rhetoric. This is what you should focus on. You should fuck those fake allies who would jump down your throat about this. Tell them to go fuck themselves. And the dehumanization of the Palestinian people. Gaza is now under a complete siege. The Israeli Defense Ministry announced that it will cut off electricity, food, and water to over 2 million people, half of whom are kids. The death toll is rising rapidly. No amount of violence, deprivation, or collective punishment will make everyday Palestinians and Israelis safe. This is bullshit. It's bullshit. Violence is the only thing that will make and keep Palestine safe. When you have an enemy that has no conscience, as Kwame Ture taught us, they are not obliged to any peace. They're not. We call for an immediate ceasefire to stop the senseless murder. We call for the end of the 75-year Nakba that includes the occupation of the West Bank, the end of the 16-year siege or the open-year prison, that is the Gaza Strip, and the end of U.S. military aid for occupation and apartheid. You should go further. You should call for the total and complete liberation of Palestine by any means necessary from the river to the sea. That is the only socialist position. There is no other. This is the only pathway to safety and peace for all in the region. And so basically you let your liberal Zionist buddies you can't do that. You can't do that. So that has nothing on what AOC, a fellow DSA member, had to say earlier. Let's see if I can find it. I share so much shit. Because I'm terminally online. Oh, yeah. This is what I'm going to be reading after I finish the stream. I'm also continuing to read The Strength of the Wolf book. I'm a nerd that reads many books at the same time. Is it good for me? Probably not. Also, since we're talking about Black and Palestinian solidarity, we should talk about how Nat Turner's revolt began. They walked into Mass's house in Virginia and blasted the whole family. Would you both sides that too? The answer is yes. Many people would do that. When you brutalize an entire people for generations, your fucking family isn't safe either. You fucking fools. That's why we say settlers aren't civilians. I know I was beefing with Fergie yesterday, but I love the way he talks. Well, not yesterday, last week. So I'm not going to read all this, but just published an authentic and interesting narrative of the tragical scene, which was witnessed in Southampton County, Virginia on Monday, the 22nd August last, when 55 of its inhabitants, mostly women and children, were inhumanly massacred by the blacks. The Vesey insurrection, the story of a great conspiracy in South Carolina, how a free Negro carpenter organized a plot to capture Charleston, murder the whites, and loot a defenseless city. Ooh. It has been said again and again by the opponents of slavery that the people of the South lived in constant fear of Negro insurrections. While this belief had no foundation in fact, still it is nonetheless true that there are always in certain localities certain fierce spirits among the slaves who wanted only an opportunity to rise in arms against their masters. Wow, I wonder why the fuck they would want such an opportunity. Maybe it's because people don't like being slaves, just like they don't like being entrapped in a concentration camp. I don't know. How dare they? So this is what Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, had to say today. It should not be hard to shut down hatred and anti-Semitism when we see it. And there was no hatred and anti-Semitism in Times Square. This is a core tenet of solidarity. No, the fuck it is not. you cannot just manufacture hatred and anti-Semitism. Like, if you've been in the Palestinian struggle, the Palestinian Solidarity movement for years, okay? You know what this shit is about. You have people like Canary Mission, Key Wiki. You're basically making it easy to dox and harass Palestinian activists because rhetoric like this try to cast the entirety of the struggle as anti-Semitic and hateful. Like, that is exactly what the hardcore Zionists do. And we have Zionism that's smuggling itself into our organization under the guise of solidarity and concern trolling. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said in a statement to Playbook late Monday, her first comments on the rally. So your first comments on a rally that your DSA branch supported and attended is negative. Why? The bigotry and callousness expressed in Times Square on Saturday were unacceptable and harmful in this devastating moment. It also did not speak for the thousands of New Yorkers who were capable of rejecting both Hamas's horrifying attacks against innocent civilians as well as the grave injustices and violence Palestinians faced under occupation. So if your first comments on one of the largest rallies in your city in the near past is negative, there's something wrong with you. This is shared by DSA North Star, who I despise, because like I think this account is just run by like the only member of this caucus that was born after 1965. Like these are the old school, like these are the people who made up DSA before like everybody joined because of Bernie. Like DSA had a huge boom. Like before Bernie, DSA was basically irrelevant. So a shitload of people, like tens of thousands of people joined after Bernie Sanders started doing this thing. And the organization has a new character. These are the old heads, North Star. So they've probably got the one dude that actually knows how to work Twitter because he was born after 1965 running this, and he is terminally online. Julianus, the unfathomably pissed, calls this DSA's Zionism Caucus. Yeah. DSA International Committee, who I think is dope on burnt Jewish babies. He was no angel. So, yeah. This is the type of shit I've been seeing all fucking day, all fucking yesterday. Like, just stop it, people. Just stop it. Okay? Like, you're not benefiting yourself. You're not advancing your cause or whatever your position is. Look at this. Another attack on a politician, Representative Hernandez in Colorado, who went to another rally. This is Senator Daphne Michelson Janette from Commerce City, Colorado, who released the following statement. I wholeheartedly disagree with Representative Hernandez's decision to attend a rally in support of the unconscionable terrorist campaign unfolding against thousands of Jewish families in Israel. Further, his posting of harmful rhetoric supporting the terrorist action on social media is reprehensible and dangerous as an Israeli and a Jew. Okay, if you're an Israeli, if you identify as an Israeli, why the fuck are you holding an elected position in the United States? Like, why? Why aren't you in Israel fighting? Why are you over here promoting this bullshit? Go home. Go home and fight. Go home and serve in the Knesset. Why are you... Bruh. No comment. You know what? Fuck it. Further, his posting of harmful rhetoric supporting the terrorist action on social media is reprehensible and dangerous. As both an Israeli and a Jew, it's hard to put into words the pain, fear, and rage that myself and my family, both here and in Israel, feel. My loved ones are currently living from siren to siren. They should fucking leave. They should fucking leave. Like, you could avoid all of these issues by recognizing, you know what, we have no place here as settlers. Let's leave. But no, you're fucking hard-headed. You're fucking stubborn. Running from their lives to underground bunkers. This whole victim mentality shit. Like, Israel is the only country in the Middle East that has nuclear weapons. The only one. And they have expressed a willingness to use them. You all are not victims. You all are the perpetrators of victimhood. My family members are being called into dangerous military service. My Israeli homeland is being torn to shreds. And hundreds of innocent people are dead with the promise of many more to come. You people aren't fucking getting it. You still aren't fucking getting it. Quit killing people. Lift the siege on Gaza. That's all you got to do. This is a deeply complex issue. No, it's not. Settler colonialism is not complex. You took the land. People are taking the land back. You want to stop them from taking the land back. It's a war. But one thing must remain clear. The wanton murder of hundreds of Jewish families is a terrible tragedy, and I am appalled and heartbroken by these horrific acts of violence. I am praying for peace, but until that day arrives, I will continue to stand for Israel and for the right of the Israeli people to defend themselves in their ancestral homeland. Like, there's actually people in DSA who, like, low-key agree with this. Low-key. They would never come out and say it publicly because they will rightfully be roasted as Zionists, but there are people who would agree with shit like this. There is not a moment of consideration for the Palestinian people who are suffering the most from this tragedy. Not a moment, not a word. It's all Israel, 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 Israel. Yet, she's also an American. She's serving as an elected official in an American state. And she's pushing this Zionist shit. This is Representative Hernandez's official statement. He says, I'm against oppression. I'm against human suffering. I'm against attacking innocent people. I'm heartbroken for any loss of life at all. So, like, you got this, yes, we have to stiffen our spines. Like, this is going to happen. If you are a veteran of the Palestinian Solidarity movement, you have to realize, like, veterans of the Palestinian Solidarity movement already realize this. Like, when shit like this happens, we have to stiffen our spine and not give in to the Zionists. We do not walk back our statements. We don't, when we say something, we say it with our whole fucking chest. As I navigate our community's responses to the events of the past weekend, I find myself in a moment of deep reflection. My deepest condolences are with all victims' families and all those searching for or waiting to hear from their loved ones. I cannot imagine their pain and anguish. When we see injustice, we have an obligation to listen to what is happening so that we may act towards justice. I listened at a rally on Saturday in solidarity with the Colorado Palestinian community. Not Hamas, because Palestinian people shared in the tragic loss of life this weekend. I did not speak or attend the rally in support of Hamas or in support of the attacks on Israel that took place over the weekend, nor did I spit on Israel. You should have. I have listened and heard deeply from Jewish and Israeli Coloradans who have called for my solidarity and mourning their losses as well. I take my job as a representative of the state of Colorado seriously. I will always seek to listen to the experiences of all impacted community members and to offer healing, space, and support to all in grief and mourning. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is one of the most complicated in the world and demands nuance, and yet, as is also true in the history of the United States, expressions of support for the oppressed are immediately labeled as scary, divisive, and attacking. When the oppressor thinks that you're scary, divisive, and attacking, you're doing your job. They're supposed to think you're scary, divisive, and attacking. They're going to think that you're scary, divisive, and attacking no matter how many of these weak-ass statements you put out. Like, that's how they are. They push and they push and they push and they take and they take and they take. They don't give back. There must be more room in this conversation for nuance rather than political attacks for partisan gain. No, there must be more political attacks on the Zionists, and they need to be expelled from everywhere that socialists claim to be, if we are going to make progress towards peace. I find one clear conclusion. I condemn war for any loss at all. War threatens the dignity of life for citizens in all of Gaza and all of Israel and across the earth, and I hope one day soon we may build a world free from war entirely. The only way to put down the gun is to pick up the gun, because the people who already have the gun are not going to put the gun down. That's not going to happen. So, there's been no comments from any of these people about the use of white phosphorus. I talked about white phosphorus on my stream the other night. If you do not know what white phosphorus does to human flesh, I highly suggest you look it up. It's a horrible thing. Look at that. Those little sparks and shit, that's white phosphorus. Willie Pete, they call it in the industry. Using this is probably one of the biggest war crimes imaginable. But the Israeli government apparently can do whatever the fuck it wants. So yeah. See that? That shit coming off that plane there? That is white phosphorus. It's pretty. It looks like fireworks. But again, Google, look up white phosphorus human flesh. This is what is being used on civilians in Gaza. This is not being used on Hamas. This is not being used on the PFLP. This is being used on regular ass people. Imagine somebody shooting a shell over your neighborhood, okay? You're out jogging, walking your dog, playing with your dog in the backyard. Somebody shoots this shit at you. Now look up what white phosphorus does to human flesh. Look it up. It basically turns the air into fire. Precisely. Look at that. So when that shit hits the ground, it turns the air into fire. There's people down there. There's little kids down there. There's old people down there. There's disabled people down there. There's queer people down there. But again, all anybody cares about in the West, including many, unfortunately, in so-called socialist organizations, left socialist organizations, liberal socialist organizations, I'm sorry. I'm not referring to DSA as this, but I'm referring to people on Twitter, and I'm referring to people that are identifying as socialists, yet doing anti-socialist things and portraying anti-socialist lines. Like I said before, the only socialist, communist, anarchist position on the Israel-Palestinian conflict is the demise of Israel and the rise of Palestine. Black people in America get it. The Irish get it. The only people who do not seem to get it are white Americans. Well, I'm a streamer, but I'm not a debate streamer pervert. I'm not a pervert at all, actually. But I also don't like these. That's the thing, like these debates and shit. Yeah, I'm totally down to promote what I believe in and say it with my full chest. But a lot of these people just like to hear themselves talk. Those aren't debates.
يعني قذائف فوسفورية محرمة دوليا حارقة يطلقها جيش العدو الإسرائيلي.
This is really making me want to learn Arabic.
انطلاقا من مرابده داخل الأراضي المحتلة.
Yeah, that's a fucking town. There's people down there.
مستهدفا الآن سهل الماري، وهي منطقة مفتوحة. نجت قبل قليل إحدى السيارات المارة، يعني عبرت السيارة ومن ثم سقطت الشظايا الحارقة لهذه القذائف سقطت خلف السيارة ونجا بفضل العناية الإلهية.
You're a very smart man, Gaius. Just like your Roman ancestors.
إذن هذه مشاهد من سهل.
Look at that. Beautiful farmland. Beautiful village. Beautiful mountains. Like, this is fucking paradise. Beautiful fucking country. Yet it's just being rocked. Destroyed for no reason whatsoever. This is what it looks like from the ground. Like fucking barren. You can't even go outside because you're going to be inhaling chemicals and shit. See? It burns you. This is what white phosphorus does. And if it doesn't, you inhale a bunch of poison and chemicals and whatnot. I shudder to think what the whatnot entails. But this is happening right now. This is what people should be condemning. This is what people should be talking about. Like nonstop. I don't give a fuck. You know what? I'm just going to flat out say, I don't give a fuck about those people at that rave. I don't give a fuck about the people in Tel Aviv who are afraid of rockets. Get the fuck out, because this is what is being done in your name. This is what is being done in your name. I don't give a fuck. Like, I really don't. I'm done. I'm done. Little fucking kids. Little fucking kids dying. We're talking about the hostages from Israel. Like, for everything that Palestinian people are doing, Israel has done 10 times worse. I think even Patton admitted that white phosphorus was a war crime they used when they deployed it in World War II. So you got Patton, one of the most ruthless generals in human history, that is to the left of the IDF on this position. We're talking about the Israeli hostages. Okay, IDF has used Palestinians as human shields on 1,200 occasions in the last 5 years. 1,200 occasions. Hamas is ISIS. No, they actually violently hate each other. Like, there's a story about ISIS attacking the IOF, the Israeli occupation force, and then apologizing. No, Hamas is not ISIS. This is in Janine, one of the homes of the Lions Den. And these actions are likely being taken by night confusion units known to operate in Nablus. These are basically your anarchists of Palestine. And I don't want to call them that, but like, yeah, Palestine has its own black bloc. Laser pointers. Like, you could literally take down a plane with a laser pointer or a helicopter. This is in Al-Karama in Gaza. Al-Karama is a densely populated neighborhood in northern Gaza with widespread destruction of homes reported in the Israeli strikes. This is why this shit is happening. This is why. You want an explanation, you want nuance, you want justification. This is why. This is why. There's people buried under these buildings. There's babies buried under these buildings. I saw a video of a little dead baby being pulled out of the rubble of a crushed apartment building. That is why. And then I don't know if this was a troll account or what, but like somebody was saying, well, this is bad for the Israeli proletariat. Like, what Israeli proletariat? What proletariat in Israel? The proletariat in Israel are the fucking Palestinians. That's the proletariat. Like, you really think that these settlers living in villas on beautiful gardens in the desert are proletarians? Like, you really think these motherfuckers get up and work for 12 or 14 hours? They don't. It's the Palestinians, the people who have to pack their lunch, walk through fucking checkpoints on their own land to go and work to make somebody else rich in Israel. Those are the proletariat. These settlers don't do anything but shoot and kill people. They're bombing ambulances. I'm not going to show that because I have the strong suspicion that I'm going to see a couple dead bodies. Anti-imperialist Ireland. These guys are based, guys and gals. An anti-imperialist action activist sets off a flare last night outside the Zionist embassy in Dublin. Victory to the Palestinian resistance. See, the Irish get it. The Irish get it because they have lived under occupation for hundreds of fucking years. The Irish get it. The Americans do not get it because the Americans are the occupiers. So it's easy for the Americans to see them more in common with the Israeli people because they're cut from the same fucking cloth. Victory to the Palestinian resistance. That should be our line. That should be our only line. Anti-Zionist Jews are routinely attacked by Zionists in the Mea Shearim neighborhood in Jerusalem because they support Palestine. So this is what happens when you stand up as a brave person that opposes the horrible things that your country is doing. You get attacked. Yeah, that's pretty much the happenings on the ground right now. Also, people keep promoting like this one state for two peoples. Okay, like nobody is saying drive every Jewish person into the sea. Nobody is saying that because that's a horrible thing. That's a horrible thing to say. Nobody supports that. Not even Hamas supports that. But, like, this is just delusional. The real solution is going to be one state for two people with equal rights for all. No, that was what they tried in South Africa. We don't want another South Africa. We want another Algeria. The decolonization of South Africa was an embarrassment and a failure. Like, if that shit works, that they're talking about this delusional bullshit, what's going to happen is you're going to end up with a South Africa type situation. The settlers are still going to control the good land, and they're going to control most of the wealth. That's what's going to happen. Thank you, Nelson Mandela. It's ridiculous to the extent anti-Zionist people are being attacked. Even Playboy fired Mia Khalifa for her support for the Palestinian people. There's a whole movement of Israelis who go to prison for refusing to serve in the IDF. So there are good people in Israel. There are. But by and large, there is no army. There is no IDF. This is a band of blood-drunk bandits. What other army would be allowed to speak like this and say this? They deleted. Please don't tell me they got rid of the Middle East Observer. Fucking pricks. And this is basically my statement on like what's going on at DSA. DSA is not an explicitly Zionist organization like the Democrats. If it was, I wouldn't have joined. It definitely does need to take a more left stance on centrism and outright right-wing sentiment from individual members in certain caucuses, such as North Star. There are Zionists and Zionist supporters in the organization, the hardcore, old-school adherents of Michael Harrington. They clash with the newer and younger members, like myself, with more advanced in revolutionary politics. The old rightists must make way for new revolutionaries. We also need to continue the work to bring elected members under discipline. AOC's statement denouncing the Times Square protest was gross and unnecessary pandering to liberal Zionists, some of which even call themselves socialists, and it is not good to let one of our most well-known members say things. Allowing this to happen, it's just confusing to people. Like, you did not have to say anything. This is also a good interview.
And the mainstream media.
This is how black politicians and black community organizers should talk in the United States.
For 75 years, you bring us here whenever there are Israelis who are killed. Did you bring me here when many Palestinians in the West Bank, more than 200 over the last few months? Do you invite me when there is such Israeli provocations in Jerusalem and elsewhere? Because what Israelis have seen, which we started by saying tragic, the last 48 hours, the Palestinians see every day for the last 50 years. You know the situation in Gaza, you've just described it. This is the biggest open-air prison. And the main...
Yeah, you bring us here when the people start to give back some, but when the enemy is just sitting there doing whatever the fuck they want, nothing. So, if you have been promoting lies, fake news, propaganda about the Israeli resistance, if you have been doing that, you owe the entire Palestinian people an apology. Imagine if this was the response every time the police killed a black person in the U.S. Like, just imagine. Imagine if this was what happened after we saw George Floyd being choked to death. Imagine if these beautiful motherfuckers flew out of the ghettos of Minneapolis. I guarantee you there'd be a lot less dead black people. So, speaking of black people, I saw this the other day. All the black people talking about free Palestine like they actually fuck with blacks is almost hilarious. And of course, this guy's been getting bombarded to pieces in the quote retreats, as he should. I love when people talk out of their ass on Twitter because Chicago always has an example. Organizations in Chicago like IMAN, AAAN, and the Students for Justice in Palestine just proved this false, especially when you look up their solidarity with groups like the NAARPR. Y'all are not tapped in, and it shows. And it's obvious that this dude wasn't even black. This was some white dude that was trying to start shit. The signs say, Palestinians for black lives, and black people are not your target practice. This is Huey P. Newton of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense outside of a Palestinian refugee camp in Lebanon in 1980. But Palestinians don't fuck with blacks, yes. He's very correct. See, this is always what happens when one people rises up and struggle. Settlers are very, very good at the practice of divide and rule. That's what Gaius's Roman ancestors developed. You don't attack both at the same time. You have to split them. And we could do this to the enemy as well. Like, there's contradictions within the enemy. So you have white people taking advantage of the fact that, yes, some petty bourgeois Palestinians in the United States own stores and gas stations in black neighborhoods, and black people tend not to like this fact. You tend to lose the forest for the little bitty trees. Yes, that is a contradiction, but at this point in time, the major contradiction is standing in solidarity with the Palestinian people who suffer in conditions very similar to ours. There's even black Palestinians. There's Afro-Palestinians.
Because of our color.
Because the Ottoman Empire was very cosmopolitan. Black people live all over the Middle East, the former Ottoman territories.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't very cosmopolitan. It had slaves. But yeah, like, you can go to Turkey and you can find people descended from black people who were brought as part of the Arab and Ottoman slave trade.
We as Afro-Palestinians are double oppressed. First, as Palestinian. Second, because of our color. They call us Kushi, niggers.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I'm not
That's what the settlers call them.
surprised because discrimination and racism in the Israel society is an ideology.
Okay.
But we as Afro-Palestinians
Palestinians advised black Americans on how to handle tear gas during the Ferguson unrest. Black radical orgs and the Palestinian Liberation Organization have a long history. How black Palestinian protesters help Black Lives Matter. Surviving tear gas became essential to Black Lives Matter. Lesson was just one way millennials used social media to cross the global divide. Through his advocacy, Malcolm X linked black internationalism with the Palestinian cause, and this created a legacy of solidarity that would influence black and Palestinian revolutionaries to come. Unrelated, but a good example of that was during the LA riots when the cops herded the crowd into Koreatown. The Korean parts of LA still beat to this day because of that. Yeah. Cops are good at making trouble. And this person says that it's really demoralizing seeing black people asking the question of why should I care about what's happening in Palestinians as if U.S. police officers haven't had a history of being trained by Israelis in the ways of racial profiling and brutality. And you can honestly blame this on the capturing of anti-Afro-pessimistic politics that stress wallowing in instead of organizing against global structures that permanently injure blackness. So basically an attack on Afro-postmodernism. That's what I call Afro-pessimism, to be honest. You've got Twitter Afro-pessimists using this moment to talk about Palestinian anti-blackness. Does it exist? Of course. Did Palestinian freedom fighters assist black people fighting in Ferguson? Also, yes. But to use the moment they're being genocided to make that point is nasty. Why? Because postmodernists do not have any fucking home training, as my grandma would say. So why black people should care about Palestinian liberation? Load, you stupid motherfucker. Oh. Help if I close some tabs. Refresh. I'm starting to realize that I talk to my computer like a boomer. Oh. This always happens when I have too many Twitter tabs open. What the fuck?
Don't care where you're coming from.
So that'll play, but the other one won't. I don't want to watch Turkish government propaganda. You know what? Fuck it. Guess the root doesn't want to be watched tonight. But yeah. Black people support Palestine because we've gone through the same shit. And not only have we gone through the same shit, but the Palestinian people are the only people who have consistently shown us support and solidarity in struggle. So if you throw down for us, we'll throw down for you. Israel is saying that officially the Israeli death toll has risen to 1,200 people. Palestine's toll since 2008 is apparently well over 120,000. So, disproportionate. And there's quite a bit of Iranian propaganda, and I don't really care much for Iranian propaganda, but whatever. I've got a book to read. We're 45 minutes in. Maybe tomorrow I'll play a game, or I'll have a guest on. You'll see. What the fuck? So, yeah. I did not. I did not know that pup play is prominent in the United States Armed Forces. More power to her.